I'm so happy to see so many new people here today, this week, because this is such a cool program. You guys are going to love it, and you're going to be coming all the time. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. It's a great program. You get to learn lots of new things, techniques, recipes, but also socializing with people. It's a great, great deal. So we're going to jump right in. The first thing that we have, so we're doing all small appliance cooking today. And so the first one is just with the crock pot. It's a pretty easy, straightforward recipe. It's cracked chicken. Not my recipe. I pulled it off of the web, but I make it pretty frequently, and it's really easy. So first, you would normally cook your chicken. You can use breasts or thighs. I use breasts today. Cook them in the crock pot for about 6 hours until they're shreddable, with a little bit of chicken broth in there if you need to. And then shred it up. I went ahead and pre-cooked them for purposes of this class. And so then you just add in, and I have 2 pounds of chicken in here. And so you add in a cube of cream cheese. Didn't say it was healthy. A packet of, this is ranch seasoning, Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning, just the whole packet. Measure with your heart with a little bit of this. You could use Tabasco or whatever. And it doesn't make it hot at all. It just gives it a little bit of extra flavor. And the bacon, sometimes I don't add that till later sometimes. And then you just put the lid back on, have it on high, and just till it all heats up. And then when it gets all heated, when we're ready for it, we'll put some shredded cheddar cheese in it, mix it all up, and we put that on Hawaiian King rolls. King Hawaiian or Hawaiian King? King's Hawaiian rolls. So that's like super easy to make, and it's delicious. Little kids love it especially. Okay, the next thing that we're going to make is using the Instant Pot. And so first I want to talk about the Instant Pot. Some people are like kind of scared of it. It freaks them out because they remember their grandma saying, don't touch the pressure cooker. It's dangerous. But these are really useful tools, and they're safe to use and all of that. And there's a ton of things you can make in them. So there's a whole bunch of different brands. I personally have the Instant Pot brand, but there are many different brands. But all of them have a few elements in common. I have actually 2 different types of Instant Pots that I brought today. But all of them are kind of have things in common. So one of them is that they have this rubber seal on the inside. It comes out so you can wash it, whatever, and it goes around this ring. And so every Instant Pot that you use is going to have one of those seals. And so it's really important before you start cooking, making a recipe, that this seal is around that bar like it's supposed to be. If it's not, it won't seal up properly, and it won't pressure cook for you. And so it'll just go on forever, and you'll be like, what's it doing? But so make sure that that's seated properly. On some of the models, they also all have pressure release valves. On some of the models, they have a valve that comes off. This particular one does. My other one does not. It is permanently affixed to that thing. But this one comes off, and so when you have one that comes off, you have to make sure that it pops straight down on there and is sitting on it tight. It'll wobble, but that's okay, that's normal, but it can't be like sitting wonky, like this, not all the way on there. Okay, so that's important because otherwise it also won't seal. And then they all have a pressure release valve. So we're going to make egg bites in the Instant Pot. They're super easy to make and fun. If you guys like the very expensive coffee store that makes egg bites in the morning. So these are really easy to make, and they're pretty similar to those. Sorry, I've got to get myself situated here. So you just put 2 eggs, and we're going to mix this up in the Ninja or the blender. 2 eggs, so just put your eggs in there, 2 eggs. Do you guys crack your eggs like that? Yeah. Like one on the other? Well, only one will crack every time. I don't know. So 2 eggs, little bit of cream cheese, tablespoon, and the recipes are on there. It doesn't have to be exact, but just try to get some in there. This is really for texture. You'll see some recipes that use cottage cheese or ricotta cheese. I like the texture of cream cheese the best. So you just put the cream cheese in with it. And then we're going to put some Gruyere cheese. You can use cheddar, whatever kind of cheese you want. It's just a chunk. Put a cup, about an ounce. So an ounce is about as big as your thumb, right? Put that in there. A little bit of mustard powder for flavor. Again, measure with your heart. Don't be shy. You got to experiment, right? Experiment in life. If you don't like it, then you'll know next time. Don't do that. Put more, put less. Measure with your heart, just a little. It won't make it hot, I promise. And then a little pepper. I didn't have any. I actually do have black pepper, but I had it packed away, and so I'm using seasoned pepper, but usually you'd use black pepper. So you put that together in the blender. These little drink mixers, I've got to put it back here because we don't have enough, are just the right size for this. And so this will make these molds have 7 egg bites in them. You get these on Amazon. They're not terribly expensive. And so this recipe will make one of those things. 7 of these. Well, maybe. That's it. So you just need to blend it long enough to make sure it chunks up that cheese. We had those chunks of cheese in there. It seems kind of counterintuitive. You don't usually put cheese in a blender, but it works. And so these egg molds you're going to fill, oh wait, we want to put goodies in them. So you could put whatever you want. I'm going to put, I have some little tiny peppers and onions in here and then some more cheese. I have some parsley here somewhere. So I'm going to put some of that just like in the bottom. And you don't put very much. I mean literally like 1/4 of a teaspoon or 1/2 of a teaspoon. And the key is it's really important that they have very small, chopped in super small pieces, minced. Because if they're in big pieces, your egg bite will fall apart. And nobody wants an egg bite to fall apart. So that's that. We'll put a little bit of cheese in one. There we go. And then you just fill it up in equal parts with this, about halfway up. Not all the way. Because these things will expand when they're cooking. And that is just about the right amount. I know you guys probably can't see this from there, but it literally just kind of filled this up. So super important when you're using these silicone molds in here too is to spray them with a cooking spray, both this and the lid, because it'll stick if you don't and you'll be sad. So most of the Instant Pots will have these trivets. And so this is really helpful in setting the thing down inside of it and lifting it out. So when you're cooking with an Instant Pot, I used my cup. You always have to have liquid in it. So the liquid will make the pressure, right? So at least like a cup. So we're just going to grab a cup, at least 1/2 cup, 3/4 cup. That's it. Pour that in the bottom. We're going to set this in. I'm going to make another batch. You can stack these on top of each other. So I'm going to put another one together just real quick so we can cook 2 at once. Okay. So this one, let's do a little bit different. We'll put some little bacon pieces. Same thing, not very much, just a little pinch in each one. If you put too much, they'll fall apart and they'll blow up and not good eats. Let's put bacon and cheddar. How's that sound? Okay. Then the same thing, you just fill them up with this. Okay. And then the lid is here. I'm just going to set this right on top of the other one. So see, I've just got them stacked in there. Just set it right down in there. And then you put the lid on, and when you put the lid on, most of these will have like an arrow. Not sure where mine is. And you line it up with the arrow that's on there, and it'll tell you where to start, and then you just twist it until it's shut. You should be able to pick it up like this. Okay? And then we're going to cook, manual cook on high pressure. Does that say 8? Needs to be 9. For 9 minutes. Okay? That's it. And then you're going to let that cook. So it's normal when this thing comes up to pressure. It'll take a little bit for it to come up to pressure, and when it does, you'll see a little bit of steam coming out of here. You might hear it talking to you a little bit. Perfectly normal. I mean, you don't want it like shoving steam up to the roof, because that's not when it's heating up. But it's normal to see a little bit of steam come up. So it'll come up to pressure when on this particular model, when it starts counting down the numbers, you know that it's cooking. Okay? Okay, that's that. Next, let's do sous vide. Who knows what a sous vide is? Yeah, a bunch of people. Yay. So sous vides are, this is a sous vide, and it's a contraption that has a little motor in it, and it has a little blade down there, and it just circulates water. That's all it does. It holds temperature, and it circulates water. You can use a sous vide for a bazillion different things. I use mine all the time. I was just talking to Suzanne before the class this morning. I use it a lot to thaw out foods. You can take a full-on frozen chuck roast that's this big and this thick, and just set it to room temperature or a little less than room temperature. Put it in there, in 20 minutes it's completely thawed out. It's fantastic. Any kind of, like, any meat, frozen, whatever. Whenever I cook, a lot of times I'll cook like a big old lasagna or something this big, or meatloaf, not meatloaf that big, but lasagna, and you portion it out, and I freeze it in vacuum pack, and then you can just pull it straight out of the freezer, put it in here, 155 degrees, which is just a nice, good, warm temperature for serving. Put it in there, 20 minutes, your dinner's done and ready. Straight out of the freezer. It's fantastic. You can use it to chill wine, which is really nice. You just put cold water in it with some ice, set it at the lowest temperature, and put your wine in there. Your wine will be chilled perfect in about 5 minutes. I have some recipes in there for different types of shrimp to cook in the sous vide. It's set at 135 degrees. The range on these things will go clear from down around, and it depends on the brand. This is an Anova. Maybe at the lowest, probably 50 degrees or so, something like that. They don't freeze, maybe even lower than that, 40 degrees, but they don't get cold, they don't freeze. And it'll go up to boiling. And so you can set it in whatever range that you want. For shrimp, you cook it at kind of a lower temperature, so because it's fish, 135 degrees, and you just make sure that it's in a sealed package, and you just put it in the water. You leave it there for, how long do we leave it? 20? My shrimp is not frozen, so 15 minutes for fresh or thawed shrimp. You had to do it longer when it's frozen, but this is not frozen. So I have several different recipes on there of how you can dress up your shrimp in different ways that you want. So I made several different things here. This is shrimp scampi. It has butter, lemon, parsley, a little chicken broth in it, right? Dump it in, it's ready to go. This is Creole. It just has Creole seasoning, some butter, some lemon. I just put these together, before we came, just to save time in the demonstration. But they literally just take a minute. Lemon pepper, same thing. This one is Szechuan spicy sauce. So shrimp for that. And then this one is Thai chili sauce, which is one of my favorites. So there's that. So these bags that I have them in, they're vacuum packed bags made from a food saver. You do not have to have a food saver to do this, though. You can do it. I'm going to show you. I brought a little more shrimp that I hadn't done yet. So I'm just going to let's put some more, the rest of this Thai chili in there. You want to? Put that Thai chili sauce. And the thing is that you want to try to get as much air out of it as you can, because if it has a lot of air in it, it'll try to float up on you, and you need it to be submerged in there. So here's what I do. I just take a straw, stick it in there, try to get as much out as you can, and then you just suck the air out. and then dump it in. And that's it. So it works. So if it does start to float up on you a little bit, what you can do is take these tongs that have one of these things that lock it down and just push it up against the edge and put your tongs on there and lock it, and it'll hold it down in place. There's a whole bunch of products out there on the market that you can buy that are, can somebody make me a timer for 15 minutes, please? That are designed to hold stuff down. They have weights you can put on them, or they have like little cage contraptions that you can put in there. This particular bucket that I have this in is made for a sous vide. It has a lid that goes with it. You don't really need that. I mean, I have it because it was gifted to me. I probably would not, I'm too cheap to buy something like that. But it is nice if you're going to cook something for a long time. If you're cooking like a beef, a steak, or something like that, you need to leave in for a couple of hours or 2 or 3 hours because it won't evaporate so much. See the steam coming out? That's perfectly normal. Nothing wrong with that at all. But there's all kinds of products out there on the market that you can use. You do not have to have a bucket like this. I've used a big like Dutch oven type pan. Anything that'll fit this screw on, and it's pretty wide. It's this wide, and you just put it over and tighten it up, and it stands up right up off the bottom. And then the water circulates from the bottom of it. So that's a sous vide. They're ultra groovy. How about mac and cheese? Let's do some mac and cheese. Also in the Instant Pot. This is super, super easy too. So for the mac and cheese, we're just going to put, I have a pound of macaroni, of just plain elbow macaroni. We're going to put chicken broth, butter, hot sauce, garlic powder, pepper, salt in the Instant Pot, right? So we got another Instant Pot going on here. Let me move this so you guys can see a little bit. I don't need this in there. Okay, so you just dump the macaroni in there, pound of it. I already have the spices pre-measured in here, so we'll put those in, and then I don't think I put the butter until later, do I? I mean the milk, just the broth. Here it is. I'm lost up here. So 32 ounces, so twice as much broth as you have pasta. So we're just going to dump that in there. There we go. Seal it up. Same thing, there's like an arrow on it to tell you where to line it up. Uh-oh, I've got it backwards. Now on this one, let me show you. This model has a different type of a vent than the other one does. This one has a sealed position and a venting position. So when it's straight down like this, and it's printed on here, I know you can't see it from there, but it's printed on here that it's venting. So when it's turned this way, the vent is open, or this way, the vent is open. When it's straight away, then it's sealed. So it just needs to be sealed. Need to check our seal, make sure it's in there. Put it to the sealing position, and then we're going to cook this for 5 minutes. So that's going to cook for 5 minutes, and then that will be ready. Everything's cooking all at once. Let's see, the last thing that I'm going to make for you, I mean, after we finish those up, is hollandaise sauce. A lot of people struggle with hollandaise sauce because it's, you know, the technique of it is kind of hard. It can break up when you try to make it in a pan, or double broiler is really kind of the proper way to make it. But you can make it with this immersion blender. Anybody use an immersion blender? Just like a little zippity doodah. It has like a little blade in right here that turns. And so for the hollandaise, you just put some lemon juice, the egg yolk, sorry. So 2 egg yolks, some lemon juice, a little bit of water in it. If your lemons are super juicy, that's a good thing. A tiny little bit of water in it. You're supposed to put salt. Do we have any salt here? No, it's no thing.
Okay.
We're going to be heart friendly today.
Okay.
We're not going to put salt in it. We'll see how that goes. And then the butter. So here's the trick to good hollandaise. You have to make sure that the butter is the right temperature. If it's not hot enough, then your eggs won't get thick. It won't thicken up. If it's too hot, it'll separate and cook your eggs, and you'll have scrambled eggs. And so this is going to be tricky because we're doing it in the microwave instead of on a pan. Normally when you do it on a pan, you cook it in the pan just until it starts to bubble, but the milk particles in it don't get browned at all. You're just melting it. So I'm going to watch that for a second. It shouldn't take long. Okay, that should be good. See how it kind of started to clarify a little at the bottom and the milk starts to separate from it? That's what you want. And then, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, it's buzzing back here.
How long would you say that you microwave that?
Maybe 10 seconds, 15 at the most. Yeah. So then you have it in a narrow jar like this. So this is just 2 egg yolks, lemon juice, and water, right? And you put your immersion blender in there. Needs to fit kind of snugly in there and start where it whips up your egg yolk a little. And then you just pour the butter in while you're whipping it. That's really important that it's going. Here we go. We have hollandaise sauce. And it really is delicious. I mean, it works out really well. It'll thicken just a little bit as it cools. You can use this, of course, for Eggs Benedict. It'll be nice with the Cajun shrimp in here on broccoli or asparagus. Nice and easy. I think it's the easiest way to make hollandaise on earth. I never make it any other way anymore. So that's that. How much time do we have there? 2 minutes. And this was egg bites. So on the Instant Pots, after you cook, there's 2 different ways to finish up the cooking. And that is a natural release or a quick release. And so it depends on what you're cooking, whether you want to do a natural release or a quick release. On the egg bites, this particular one, you can do a natural release up to 10 minutes. You don't have to, but you can do it up to 10 minutes. Once it gets past 10 minutes, they start to get rubbery and it's no fun. And so anywhere from 2 or 3 minutes up to 10 minutes, you're good to go with that. With pasta, you always want a quick release because you don't want pasta after it's cooked to just sit there and get mushy. So you always do a quick release on pasta. On meat, especially beef and pork, a more dense meat like beef or pork, you always want to do a natural release for at least 15 minutes. At least 15 minutes. Because otherwise what happens is once you it's got all that pressure and steam in there, cooking, getting all crazy. And then whenever you do a fast release, which we'll do on the pasta here in a bit, it just brings all of the pressure off, and the first thing that meat does is go, what's going on? And all of the fibers kind of cling together, and it's really tough. And so if you do a natural release, it's much better. It still hasn't went to a time yet? Okay. It's still going up to pressure. And it's kind of full, so it takes a little bit longer. So the other thing I didn't say to you too is that these Instant Pots, they have like a little metal pin. When the inside gets up to pressure like it's supposed to be, the pin pops up. And so you know that it's sealed when all that steam has pushed that pin up. And so when you when you quick release it, it mechanically drops that pin and well, it doesn't drop the pin, but it lets it vent out, and then that pin will drop whenever it's ready to open. You'll be able to hear it. Okay, so this one, you just push the button. There you go. So this is a super cool little contraption. I know it's goofy looking, but I love this guy. And it's made for this Instapot, not this one. But it sits over the top of the vent. And so, see? I shouldn't have done that. It sits over the top of that vent, and so whenever you go to open it up and release it, it'll direct the steam away from here so it's not hitting your cabinet tops. So this is a really cool little deal. Did it drop yet? Nope. Okay. So we now have egg bites. Oh, my gloves. I got to tell you about my gloves. These are called Digz, D-I-G-Z. They're actually gardening gloves. You can get them at Walmart. But they have this coating on them where you can pick up anything hot. They're fantastic. I actually got them. I was doing some volunteer work at the Elks cooking chicken, and the chicken's coming straight out of the fryer, so it's very, very hot. And I was always like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And my friend Roger said, you got to get some Digz, man. And so, okay, so we now have egg bites. Let's get these onto a plate. You guys can see them. Yeah, these gloves are not really all that friendly for picking up things, though. Remember, if any of you are my age or older, so flexible you can pick up a dime. Remember the Playtex gloves? Anyway, I'm dating myself, aren't I? So if you sprayed it with Pam, they'll pop right out of there. So there you have it. And see, that was just maybe, 1 minute or 2 minutes on natural release. And this is sitting in there longer and on the bottom. So I'm going to show you this one. See how it kind of deflated? If you leave them in there too long for a natural release, they'll all get like that and they get rubbery around that bottom. So the longer you leave it in there, that's no good. So these are done. We want to.
Your timer went off
For the shrimp. Okay, so shrimp's done too. You're making time. Okay, so let me take a look at these. See how it changed in color to the nice pink? So they're cooked. I just want to make sure they're cooked well. Yep. And I'm just looking at them for color, you know, because they were frozen when I left the house. See, this one's not quite as cooked. I can still see it's a little, it's not all the way opaque on the top. So I'm going to leave that in there for just a little bit longer. And again, you don't want to leave them too long because they'll get rubbery, you know, right? You can also, one of the other tricks that I do, you can see I have all these clips on my cord. I just store them there because then I won't lose them. You can clip this to your pan, you know, to like kind of hold it down. I didn't really need to on these because they're all vacuum packed, but you get the idea. So on this one, this is a quick release. Did you hear it? Da-da-da. So it went to the right temperature. So this is a quick release. So you just open it up. We're going to put this little guy on it. And he'll turn it, the wheel for you too. Remember, it had the open and closed position, so you turn it to either side. So it just directs that away. So her question was, when I release the steam on it, because now it's counting up. And she was asking, when I release the steam, does it start counting up? And it doesn't when you release the steam. It starts counting back up once it's done cooking. And so that's important for you if you're trying to do a natural release for a certain amount of time. You don't have to like set your timer, watch it until it gets down 15 minutes. You can just come back, and if it has that, yeah, then you know it's 15 minutes, right? Okay. So this is done. Whew, that's hot. me get a big deal in here. So there's still quite a bit of liquid in there. And so you may need to get a little liquid off of it if there's too much. You know, a lot of times it'll soak all the way in, but I may have had a little less than a pound there. But once you get the cheeses melted into it and all of that, it's going to thicken up as it cools anyway. So you can turn this off, or you can turn it to saute. Saute is just like it heats the bottom of the pan, so it'll steam up, you know, and get some of that steam out. And so the macaroni is done, except just putting in the cheeses and a little bit of milk if you need it. There's still a lot of liquid left in that, so I'm not going to put milk in it. Actually, I'll try to take some of that off so we can put a little milk. So I'll just dip it out with the ladle. There's not too much. See, I can't hardly even get a ladle out of it. But the idea is for you to be able to do it all in one pot, you know, without having to strain it. It really isn't that much faster than just making it like this. And then there's a lot of folks, you know, of course, that like to have their macaroni baked. And you can do this part of it and then put it in a pan and finish it out, baking it just like you would, you know, any other mac that you're making. And, okay, so I've got a little bit of milk there. And salt and pepper. I don't even know that we really need a lot of milk, but so I know you guys can't see this up here, but I keep losing my spoon, don't I? But it's boiling. The water in here is boiling now, and I know you can't see that or hear it, but just from turning that onto the saute button, I'm sure you can probably see the steam coming up off of it. And so it's evaporating that water right out of there. And there wasn't too much water really anyway, but I just wanted you to know that sometimes it may look like it's just got too much water. So put a little bit of cheese in it, just a little. And then you just stir this up. Probably better to put it in by the handful, but I don't have that kind of patience. So get that in there, and you can use whatever kind of cheese you want. I use cheddar, mozzarella, and a little Parm. But you could use, I mean, a lot of people like the Velveeta stuff, you know, or you could use Colby or pepper jack or whatever you want. And then it comes out and you just have nice macaroni. There you go. So macaroni's done. I'm going to turn that off. And it'll thicken up a little as it sits there. So just remember that. Okay, shrimp. Okay, that's definitely done now. So this one is lemon pepper. I already told you guys what I put in there, didn't I? Yeah. And so when they're done, you just dump them out and they're ready to eat. They'll be like a little bit watery, a little bit soupy because shrimp has water in it. You know, and so that water will release, but you just dump it and eat it just like that. So, so I've had some success using with this stuff and with the Thai chili to just put a little bit of cornstarch in it. You just have to make sure that the cornstarch is mixed up really well in it, or else you'll get clumps in it. But if you have that mixed up really well before you put the shrimp in it, I'm going to let that one cook a little bit more. Then it'll thicken up that sauce whenever it cooks. So that's that.
All right, well, thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
So we've got a few more recipes in the booklet for you. Mine is on page 8. Mine's really, really simple. Basically, I've just made horchata. Has anybody ever made horchata before?
Oh, no, but I love horchata.
So you're basically just going to soak some rice. There are a lot of variations on it. And so for today, I did it with almonds. So the good news is, for anybody who likes to be health conscious, this is pretty much vegan or vegetarian. So it's basically, can you hear me, Spencer? Okay. So it's basically just rice, almonds, sugar, and cinnamon. So nothing concerning there as far as vegan or vegetarian goes, but if you're diabetic, you do not want to have this. It's mostly just simple sugars. Tastes really nice, but don't have a lot of it if you're diabetic. So the preparation is pretty simple. So the longest part is going to be step number 1, blanch the almonds. I thought I could kick this out in about 15 minutes. I spent about 45 minutes peeling almonds. So basically, you're just going to put your almonds in a bowl, pour in some boiling water, let them sit for a minute or two to soften up that skin on the outside. Drain the water off, and then just start with your fingers, just taking the skins off of the almonds and separating the skins from the almond meat itself. You can leave the almond skins on if you want. There's nothing wrong with it. The only bad thing about it, if you consider it bad, is it will start to bleach out those tannins when you're letting it soak, so your water will turn a little bit brown. And you'll also get some, I think they're kind of pretty, but when you actually run it through the blender, those skins will get chopped up and you'll have little brown pieces floating in with your mixture. So if you want a nice pure white mixture like we have today, you'll want to skin the almonds. If you don't care about the color, or if you like those little brown flecks floating in it, you can just leave the skins on it. So basically, you're going to take your almonds, take your dry rice, put them in a container, and pour some cold water on them, and just let them soak in the refrigerator overnight. So overnight, for most people, is 8 hours. If you did it at 10 o'clock at night and then 6 o'clock the next morning, most of us don't want to do something at 10 o'clock at night and then wake up at 6 to do something else. So you can let it go a lot longer. I could probably even let it go 24 hours. I didn't try 24 hours, but I did about 18 hours instead of 16, and I didn't have any problems. Actually, letting it soak a little bit longer might be a better thing. The rice grains take a while before they start to soften up. So depending on how powerful your blender is, the softer the rice is, the quicker it will blend. So if you don't have a very powerful blender, if you let it soak longer, those grains will soften up a little bit more and you won't have to blend it as much. So basically, you're just going to let it soak overnight. It'll start to draw out the flavors and the starches and the other materials from the rice and almonds. Throw it in a blender, start to chop it up in your blender. Then you'll start to actually get some of the fats out of the almonds too. So when you get your total mixture at the very end, you're going to drain that through a strainer. Try to get your chunks out of there. Some people like it a little gritty. Some people like it a little smoother. I don't mind it either way, although I will say the rice grains never really soften up for me when I leave it gritty. And so that gritty is pretty crunchy too, and a lot of people don't like that. So I went through an extra fine strain. I did my normal strainer, and I went through a even finer strain to get it a little bit smoother for you guys today. Another trick you can do on my serving container here, the spigot is about 1 inch off the floor of the serving container. So if you let it set for a while in the serving container, some of those heavier grains will start to drop down onto the floor of the container, and you won't get as many out of the spigot for your drink. So, final stage, you're just going to add some water and sugar to it, sweeten it up a little bit, and then I like to add a little ice. I think it tastes a little crisper when it's nice and cool, chilled, but it's flavorful even without the ice.
I am doing brownies with a twist, and I used toaster oven. So I brought mine in. It's a mini convection oven, and so I will tell you, this is a tool that is used quite a bit in our household. So I'll let her finish, and then I'm going to give you a little. I made brownies in there, so so it's nothing difficult. As you all know, I do nothing difficult, so it only goes with the flow here. But I would strongly recommend a toaster oven. Of course, it does toasting. It has a slot for toast, for bagels. There's a bake because it's a convection oven. You can do pizza. There's you can turn it for pizza. I bake cookies in here if you want just 6, 7, 8, 9. Because I told you my husband's a diabetic, so I try not to do a lot. So if he has a sweet tooth, just do quick. You can just do 6, 7, 8 cookies in there, then put them away. You can warm things up. I use anything 8 by 8. I can do my chicken pot pie in there when I make my chicken pot pie. Cinnamon rolls in the morning. It's nice because you're not heating up your whole house, your whole kitchen. Especially in the summer, when it's hotter than Hades out there, you don't want to do that. So it's just a nice, simple tool. We use it, like you use your sous vide, Tina, we use our toaster oven because it just makes life so much easier. And it's especially good because it's just the two of us. So most things, if I do an 8x8 burritos, anything like that, it's just a simple thing, and it's easy. I would strongly encourage you. The one problem is we went to buy another one because ours is, just in case. They don't sell them anymore, this brand. So we have to find another brand. So that's the unfortunate piece. But this was a Bella, and it was a Bella series that we bought at Best Buy when they had their deal of the day, because that's what my husband likes to look at, the deal of the day and find all those good things. So, but that's been a good deal. So again, easy. All my brownies, I just use the box mix. So you just follow the recipe, the 2 eggs, the water, and oil. And then I just added fun things into them. I always, when I make brownies, add basically chocolate chips, whatever kind I have in the cupboard. So I did this one with mini chocolate chips. So this has just extra chocolate. I've also, in all of these, added a heaping tablespoon of espresso powder to give it a little bit more chocolate. So if you like chocolate, this one would be the one for you. This one, again, has the espresso powder, but I added walnuts. So again, and I just use this whole, you can add, I don't measure. Spencer makes fun of me. It's like, that looks good. We just dumped that whole thing in. That was good. I didn't measure the chocolate chips either. That looks good. This one, I added peanut butter to. So I just took Jif smooth peanut butter, added, if I had to make a guess, it was probably about a half a cup of peanut butter. Just mixed it in with the brownie recipe and just baked it. So none of these, and again, this one has espresso powder too. None of them are difficult. It just makes it a little bit fun. When I was teaching, I would make brownies and I'd add those little mini candies in there. You can do whatever you want. It's really whatever you guys are in the mood for. So I do have them labeled because I want people, if you have a nut allergy, to make sure that you are aware of that. But it's fun. Like I said, I used it last night. One batch went in. It got out, put the next batch in. That came out, put the third batch in. So it's really simple, and you just follow the box mix. Nothing too extravagant, but just something fun and a good use of a small appliance. So just wanted to share that with you.
I'll be honest with you guys, when we did the small appliances and it kind of came up as, what are we going to do? I struggled with this. My wife is the queen of the Instapot and the slow cooker and all that stuff. So I use, my big claim to fame as a small appliance is the KitchenAid. Love my KitchenAid. I blew up 3 of them so far. If she wasn't here, I'd see if I can get this in the car, but it's not going to fit. So, by the way, if you do get a KitchenAid, if any of you are interested, they come in different quart sizes. They're like 4-ish, 5 definitely quarts, up to 8. If you're seriously going to get into like bread making or something like that, go for the 7 or 8 quart. Not because of the big bowl, because it has the biggest motor on it. If you're going to make something like I'm going to go over with you today, you need the torque to have that machine pull the bread hook, this thing. This is the one from the bigger one behind us. This would be awesome. Your KitchenAid one won't be quite this big, but it's the same idea. So this needs to be able to have the machine torque it around the bowl to knead your dough, okay? So what I've got today, how many of you were here for the Thanksgiving one where we did the potato rolls? All right, half of you keep coming up and saying, oh, potato rolls? Can we do more rolls? I'm having a roll withdrawal. Sure, no problem. So I thought, well, okay, let's try to do something a little bit more healthy. So on page 9 of your book is the honey oatmeal bread. I think you're going to be impressed with this. It's actually got whole grains in this. It's not all white flour. Yay, right? I'd almost dare to say I think our family, yes, the potato bread is going to be always going to be the top notch, but I think this is going to be right under there. So let me just kind of go over the ingredients and then I'll explain how I did it with the KitchenAid. By the way, if you don't have a KitchenAid, can you make this? Absolutely. You're going to get real buff in your arms with this recipe, okay? So the whole thing is I was trying to figure out a way to get whole wheat bread to taste like white bread. That's always the trick, right? So we can leverage something which is called a soaker, aka in this case is going to be the rolled oats, oatmeal, quick cooking oatmeal. Don't get the steel oats because they won't get soft enough in time. They're going to be like chewing on little pebbles. You don't want that. So just get the rolled oats, quick cooking, and that's fine, okay? So what I do now, you know, Suzanne pointed out, I kind of have this problem with weighing stuff. So I actually gave you guys the volumetric here, so like half cup, 1 cup, things like that, but I actually have everything in grams. So I have a scale. You guys have seen the scale. A lot of you have seen the scale before I brought it here. So I take my KitchenAid bowl, I stick it on the scale. I hit 0. It now reads 0. Does that make sense? Okay. So in this case, if we're going to go with the volumetric measurements, I would put my half a cup of oats in here. Then I take the 1 cup of boiling water, aka I put in glass cup, put it in the microwave for about 2 minutes till it's boiling. Stick it in here, give it a little quick swift, go about 20 minutes. It'll expand. It's going to basically cooking them, okay? The reason why we're doing this is it's going to help make the bread, keep it moist, and it's also going to help kind of tenderize things. So that's a good thing. It's called a soaker. You definitely want to give it a good 20 minutes, half hour to cool down, because if you put yeast in hot stuff, guess what happens? You will kill it. Exactly. So we don't want that to happen. You can always put your hand on the bottom. If it feels like it needs an extra few minutes, give it a few extra minutes. It's just oats. It's not like, you know, anything bad's going to happen. So while this is on the scale and everything's cooled down, I squirt in the honey, the oil, the yeast. Then I layer the whole wheat flour, the bread flour, and salt. That's the traditional recipe. The other thing that I've been playing with is I've been leveraging this stuff. Instant mashed potatoes. This is why you guys like the potato bread. It's because it was made with this. This is a natural tenderizer. The other thing is because whole wheat bread can be kind of dense. If anybody's ever, you know, like, oh gosh, whole wheat bread, yum. When do we have to leave? Oh, we got to leave right now. Goodbye. Thank you for having us over. Here's the thing. Potatoes are loaded with potassium. Yeast loves potassium. So this helps give you that extra rise and it will help tenderize your bread. If you guys are interested at the next What's Cooking, I'm still toying with a recipe. I can definitely bring you a recipe and bring it up here on the front counter for next time. So basically I layer everything. I stick this on the KitchenAid with the hook inside, okay? I turn it on for about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. Turn it off. I take a wet towel, put it on top with the bread hook and everything, load it in the machine, and I walk away for 30 minutes. Why? The flour needs time to absorb the water. It's called hydrate, autolyse. If any of you are bread heads out there, you know where I'm going with this. When you come back, it's going to look completely different when you take the towel away from the KitchenAid bowl, then turn it on to speed 2. If you read the KitchenAid instructions, if you go over speed 2, when you're kneading bread, you avoid your warranty. Okay? You could possibly strip the gears out of the machine. I'm just saying, that's your warning. This will take some doing to get this going because of how, and let me go over the actual bread flour here. I'm a King Arthur fella, okay? Been using this for years and years and years. It's consistent from bag to bag, and they don't gas the flour to make it white like other companies do. It's what they call non-brominated. We're not going to get into all that today. But this is good flour. It is a premium flour, but it's a good flour. So the other thing that we're using is this stuff. This is their whole wheat flour. If you want a lighter whole wheat, but still whole wheat, they've just recently rebranded it as golden whole wheat. It used to be white whole wheat. It's basically the same wheat that they make Cheerios out of. So it's still whole grains, it just doesn't have that heavy flavor. This is a different berry when they grind it. But this you can get at Walmart or Publix. You can buy these two things at any of your stores locally. The golden whole wheat, you actually have to, I think you have to special order. Okay, so you take stuff out of the KitchenAid, you're gonna make it into pans. I use the Baker's Joy, the blue and the white can, because I found it releases the best out of my pans that I have. Most people have a nice little 8.5 by 4 nice little bread loaf. Well, you guys know I'm not normal. So I have a 10 by 5 by 4. These are commercial bread pans. I mean, if you're gonna make a sandwich, let's make a sandwich, right? So, and why not make 2? So, okay. So here's the thing. Also, how do you know when your bread's done? We've talked about this. This is on the test. Thermopen, yes. Thermometer. When the bread reaches 200 degrees, it's done. So then you pull it out of the oven. You're going to let it set on a cooling rack. In the pan is what I generally do for about 10 minutes. If you want, you can even make a sling for your pans. So with parchment, all you gotta do is pick it up and be done with it. Or if you dump it out, that's fine. Now, what happens next after you've taken the bread out of the oven? I know what you guys are thinking. No, don't cut it. You need to let it set for an hour. Because if you don't, it's going to be gummy. And you're going to eat it, and you're going to go, that is the best bread I've ever had. Then an hour later, your tummy's going to go, I'm not so happy. Okay? So we're all going to let it cool, right? No more hot bread from the oven. Okay? So this is a mix of bread flour with the addition of the whole wheat and the mashed potatoes and the oatmeal. I think you're really going to like this. It's not going to be your traditional whole wheat bread that's usually like a brick. By the way, if you guys go to the steak places and they bring that nice brown bread, you say, oh, this is healthy. Do you know why it's that color? Caramel coloring. Possibly molasses if they've, splurged. It's a coloring agent. It's really white bread with some multigrain built in, okay? So this is truly got the whole berry in it. By the way, this stuff, anytime you buy whole grain, where do we keep this? You're right, refrigerator, freezer, because this has oil in it. This does not. So this will go rancid much faster, okay? So keep it in the freezer, refrigerator. Something's blowing up here. I'll step away so.
What's it say? Don't be scared.
You know that's too much paperwork they got to fill out if I lose an eye, right?
Don't be scared.
No. Okay, so that's basically what I did. Is for the small appliances, I did use the KitchenAid. The other thing with the KitchenAid, you can get attachments for it. You want to grind meat, you want to grind your own wheat, you can. They sell all the attachments for that. You guys saw when we did the pasta one, right? She was putting all the stuff through the pasta machine. You can do that too. So the other thing, when you're buying the mashed potatoes, if it says premium, put it back on the shelf. This is one of those times premium is not better. It's full of other stuff, and I've had problems with it. The plain old generic instant mashed potatoes for like $1 a box is the stuff you want. Put the money into this stuff instead, okay?
Good morning. I made some fruit salsa, which is in the crock pot up here. The recipe is on the table up here. I personally like my salsa very chunky. I left the different, it's got fruit, different kinds of bell peppers, onions, so I left it fairly chunky. When you mix everything in here, it does look very liquidy, but you do mix a little cornstarch in it, so it ends up being very, very thick by the time it actually finally finishes cooking. What I also wanted to point out was I like this stuff called tahini. I put this on everything. I put it on bananas, watermelon, cantaloupe, chicken, fish. You can put this on anything. They also make a liquid version of this though that's very spicy, but this powdery one, you can sprinkle this on everything. So there is some of this in there as well. So I hope you enjoy. I brought some little cups and chips that you can help yourself.